Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Flores.
Here.
Gonzalez. Here. Hussein.
Here.
Jost. Here. Mason. Here. Pelletier. Here. Kuzo. Here. Okay. Just for everyone's reference, I know we have a copy of the consent agenda. I plan to proceed with this meeting as we usually do, and then we can discuss it and kind of, pros and cons and that kind of thing a little bit later under unfinished business. Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes from January 12th, 2023.
I'll second it.
Hard copies were provided tonight. Digital copies were sent earlier this week. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from January 12th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public comments, agenda items only. It's just us for tonight. President's report, just something I'd like to highlight, and also based on a couple of comments that I've personally just gotten. And this was actually highlighted under Karina's as well. But I've gotten so many comments about our social media lately, especially a lot of the Jan's doing a lot of I'm gonna call it the wrong thing. Reels. My kids would be laughing at me right now. But they're fun and
They're relatable.
they make us engaging, and I've gotten just comments about it too.
Good.
So
I'll pass that on to Karina. I mean, it was part of the reason that we wanted someone to come in, and
Yeah.
Jan's young, she's involved in a lot of those kinds of things, so she really looks at things with a different eye, and it brings, like you said, I just think they're really fun and engaging, so.
yeah. I mean, I
But
always
I'll
love them,
pass
but
that
when I get comments like sub or two, it always makes me feel kind of proud. So.
I'll make sure to pass that on
Yeah.
to them, because I know they'll want to hear that.
Please do. Okay, so going on to committee reports, finance.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial reports for January 2023.
Second.
General ledger, is that the first one everybody?
Yeah, they're all in the same order.
Questions? Nothing, okay. The check register.
Not a bad thing.
The income statement. Use 23. Okay. Nope. Oh. PMA, got a lot of money in there.
$94, yeah.
I'm only kidding, I know what's going on. Nothing, nothing to think about?
vote on the financial report. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hussein,
Yes.
Jost,
Yes.
Mason,
Yes.
Pelletier, yes. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores.
Yes.
Okay. We don't have a report for facilities, but policy, we did have a few policies that were up for review that we will get to a little bit later. Staff reports, was there anything that you wanted to highlight or add?
I just wanted to give the board a quick update. I met with Jason Perkunas from SMC last week to do kind of a walkthrough of the building and discuss the things that were going out for bid for this year for building improvements. And they are, as the board knows, masonry and tuck pointing.
Window
Painting
replacement.
and window replacement, yeah. So we, like I said, we did a complete walkthrough, kind of talked about what impact that may have on the building and staffing and you know, patrons using the space and that kind of thing. He anticipates that we'll probably go out to bid towards the end of February, but work would not start until August, because we don't want to do anything. First of all, if the bids go out at the end of February, by the time they're in and they hire people and stuff like that, so we're not doing anything during June and July because of summer reading. So any work that we do this year will start in August. And he anticipates it will go from 2 to 3 months, depending on, you know, just how things go. So we kind of talked about what the different windows will look like and what, you know, we're looking for and that kind of thing. So, yeah, so another, you know, kind of the next round of the building improvements. So the extra money that we got in from the personal property replacement tax will be nice to go towards some of that too. So just like I said, just to give you guys a quick update on that. So we don't have the bid documents or anything yet, but you know, he's busy working on pulling all of that information together for us.
Is the grant money also the almost 45,000, will that be going towards building?
The per capita grant? Is that what you're talking?
I'm looking at revenues 10-3920.
Yeah, we haven't actually gotten that grant money yet. So that is the per capita grant money, and then age options grant money is usually what is included in that. Age options has specific things that it has to go towards. Usually has to do with technology for seniors or ways to get them engaged in the community, so that's kind of earmarked for that sort of thing. The per capita grant money, we have to spend as per our per capita grant application for this year. And I usually, unless I've got a specific project that goes towards, I usually break it up in between like personnel or building stuff is part of that, but there are some rules with per capita grant money that limit how much you can use towards building expenses. Like, for example, it often can't go towards things like major building improvements, like you can't replace your roof with per capita grant money, that sort of thing, but you can buy new furniture. So I divided up. I am happy to go back, and I don't remember off the top of my head what
No,
the
no, that's
specifics
fine.
were, but that's, yeah, that won't necessarily go towards that. I don't have anything else, unless anyone has any other questions.
The security door in the YS, in the youth service office, I was just rereading, making sure but there's no like long term, just the problem will reoccur. Is that?
Yeah, I think it's because of the weight of the door. So
Okay.
it's the door that goes into the YS office, not, so the door that goes into the staff area, we're not allowed to keep locked because of code, fire code. So it's marked as staff only. So then the two offices that are behind there is the youth services office, which has a keypad to get in, and then the maintenance office, Ed's office, which we lock with the key, and then the staff kitchen is there. So it's the door with the security number pad to get into the YS office, and the door is really heavy, and it's just, apparently it just pulled away just slightly, because it has to be lined up pretty carefully for the security mechanism to release when you type in the code. So.
Doesn't have to be replaced, you're not?
No, I don't think it has to be replaced. Basically, I think they just had to realign the door jamb. So I actually meant to ask Jason about that when he was out last week, and I spoke with him, but we were talking about so many other things that I didn't get a chance to, see if he had talked with Ed about a little bit more about that, or if there was more, a better long-term solution. It could just be when we were moving things in there. I mean, it's hard to say exactly, when that happened and if it will happen again. So we're just monitoring it.
Okay.
And it was an easy fix as far as I'm aware. But the door is very heavy. If you ever are down there, it's a pretty substantial metal door.
I had a question about Rebecca Hayes' resignation.
Uh-huh.
Was it a lateral move, or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
So part of there was a couple different reasons. One of the major ones is location for her. So a little bit easier. She takes public transportation, and so that was a little bit easier from her home location. A little bit extra money as well, and so a little bit different job responsibilities as well. So yeah.
I don't know if it's something that you would know off the top of your head, but is Highland Park pretty significantly over the average for compensation?
I think they're a little bit. I don't know about significantly, but a little bit in my experience when I've looked at that. So I feel like we're doing fairly well with compensating people. And people leave jobs for a variety of different reasons. So I think there was some personal reasons involved with that as well.
Okay.
So, but.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'd also like to give a shout out to Jessie. She presented at that National Live Learn Press Conference, which was awesome, so.
It used to be American Library Association, the ALA Midwinter Conference,
Okay.
and so they've recently kind of rebranded it and changed it. So, and the Midwinter always was really kind of ALA committee focused and less kind of programming and stuff like that. So there was, ALA's been trying to work on membership and different things and making the organization more, appealing and viable for librarians to join. And so this is one of the things that they're doing, is to make the Midwinter Conference more of a learning opportunity for people. So this is their first in-person one. So I actually talked to Jessie the other day and asked her how everything went. And, she said her presentation went fine, of course. She said there was technology issues. That's always the case, right? When you're standing in front of a room full of people presenting at a national conference. And, she said it was smaller than some of the other conferences, which is to be, expected. First in-person one, first one of this series or this particular annual conference that they'll do. But she said it was, the rest of the conference was really good, and, it was always good to network and that kind of thing, so. Should be interesting. So, and I think next year's is, and for her personally, it was great. She has a really good friend that lives in New Orleans, so she was able to do some fun stuff too. So, and then I think next year's Live Learn conference is in Baltimore, I think. Because the ALA, the big annual ALA conference is in Chicago this year. So, yeah.
I see, Jeff took an acquisitions course. Is that acquisitions of books?
Yeah, so Jeff, with Helga retiring, Jeff has agreed to oversee the technical services department for this year while we kind of look at the organizational structure of the library and figure out kind of what we want to do long term. So he's been working with Helga on acquisitions and kind of expanding his knowledge. So the things that he's looking at are some of the acquisition stuff that's available through CCS. So he knows how to do those things within the catalog and everything. So he's mentioned that he's pretty excited about this. He's enjoying learning new things. He's ready to kind of spread his wings a little bit with that. So it's a great opportunity for him to learn a little bit more, because he's done things. He's done CERC, he's done reference, and so this will be experience in an area that he doesn't have a lot of actual cataloging experience, but technical services and circulation services, they kind of go very well together, because it's all about accessing the collection, cataloging the books and processing the books so that they're available, and then already there's a lot, CERC staff will assist tech services staff in like checking in things or, deprocessing things and those kinds of things already. So it's kind of a natural fit for those two departments.
Any other questions or comments for Pam? So, we're down to unfinished business, so use of consent agenda. So thank you, Pam, for providing a draft of what a consent agenda looks like. You can definitely feel free to, share your comments. We can definitely, I'm open to trying it if we want to experiment it, try it that way. I think that, the discussion of, argument in my head that I kind of go right towards is, if we want to, someone has questions about financial, we want to bring that up, or discussion about the, certain policies or whatever, we're still gonna have those comments, we can still pull it, even if we do have the consent agenda. And what is our goal if we do decide this? Is it to save time? I think we run our meetings quite smoothly, but please,
Tell me how it works. So, like for step 5 on this consent agenda, do you then, like as far as motions, do you make a motion to approve that whole agenda?
You
And
make a
then,
motion to approve the consent agenda.
And the whole thing.
Okay.
Right, and so then.
but then you're just opening up, you can't talk about any of these,
No,
right?
well, you're not really supposed to, because then it kind of defeats the
Defeats the
purpose of the
purpose?
consent
Okay.
agenda. So usually, so the first thing that has to happen as a board, and I'm completely driven by what you guys want. I don't have a preference either way. The first thing is that the board would have to agree, you'd have to vote on using a consent agenda. So it would be
Sure.
reflected in the minutes. Then with the consent agenda, you would make at that meeting, you would make a motion to approve the consent agenda. You can either say as presented, which you might want to do if you've got a lot of things that are, like this, that kind of thing, or you can kind of list them out in the motion, the consent agenda with the budget or the whatever, right? And so then you just, and at that point, people would say, I would like to pull off, say, the financial reports or something like that, because I had a question. So you can, like, if it's just a quick clarification question for something on the consent agenda, they usually say that's okay. But if you get into, like, protracted discussions on something, again, that's kind of defeating the purpose of the consent
Okay.
agenda. And the consent agenda is to Emily's point or question, is more to save time and to get through the routine items that you would regularly do that don't require much discussion, may only have a clarification question or something like that, so that you can move on to more substantive issues on your agenda. So that really is the purpose of them. So yeah, and then people would, you'd make that motion to approve the consent agenda. If no one wanted to pull anything off, then you would just vote on the consent agenda, and then you just move on to the, what would be number 6.
I'm just, I'm just wondering if the whole purpose for the consent agenda is to save time. Not that I'm against that, but I don't feel like our meetings are that long. I mean, I think that we run
On average,
some-
no.
Not on average, right? And my other hesitancy was, from an audit standpoint, is it better to have certain things like financial reports not in the consent agenda?
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because, the audit doesn't look at the meetings. The audit looks at, when the auditors look at they look at our financials. They look at the minutes from the meetings, as long as the board has approved certain things. But in terms of the audit, that doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't have to be a separately approved
Mm-mm.
item, as long as it's on.
Well, it doesn't have to be separate because you are approving it as part of the consent agenda. So, and then if there were issues that had to be addressed, for example, you wouldn't put the budget under consent agenda. The financial reports
You'd
is
have
one
to
thing,
go
but
through
the
that.
budget, you
Yeah.
would, that's something that would be a major discussion point, right? So you're really only including things on the consent agenda that are kind of regular items of business. It would be really incumbent on all of the board at that point to make sure that they had read their packets, so that if they did have any clarifying questions, they could either contact myself or whatever to clarify beforehand, or, you know,
Bring it up
or
at the meeting.
something could say, you know, I really have a question about something in the, you know, why is Pam asking for vacation? I want to pull that off, that kind of thing. So it's just really, you're looking for the routine things that are, you know, easily gotten rid of so that you can deal with the more substantive issues up in front of the board.
That sounds amazing.
So you could ask a question like via email, like after you've done, okay.
Yeah, the
And
board
clear
can
it up.
ask me at any time, anything. That doesn't violate any
Okay,
Open
I see.
Meetings Act. And I'm allowed to send you guys stuff, but, and that's why I've asked when, if you're responding, to only respond back to me, because the minute you respond to the whole group, technically, as far as open meetings goes, even though it's an email, that constitutes a meeting.
Oh, okay.
So like, that's why the board isn't supposed to email all the trustees at one time, that kind of thing, because those things constitute a meeting under open meetings. But you are absolutely welcome to contact me directly at any point.
I mean, it seems appealing to put everything together, and like you say, we typically don't have that much of a discussion anyway, so put it together, approve it, move on. I kind of like that abbreviation and the amount of time of just doing everything.
I will say that, I mean, it eliminates, I mean, for example, we just went through the financials, and it's, you know, for us, it's gratifying, there's no questions, it means, you know, I mean, we're kind of doing what we're supposed to do, but it does eliminate that kind of going through and sitting here and we're looking at one another and there's no one asking a
Yeah.
question, that kind of thing. Not that there isn't times that that happens, but again, you do have the ability to pull something off, or you have the, you can always ask me beforehand, or if it's a quick clarifying question, like you say, what is the Christmas, who is that, what is, you know, is that, and then we say, oh, that's the chess guy, or whatever, right, then that would be fine.
So it doesn't limit discussion, it just focuses on approving it prior so that we can move on to more substantive issues.
Right, and that is the
We're about to
intent of
do
the
that
consent,
with
right.
our policy
Right,
conversation.
right, so that, I mean, that would be the advantage of a consent agenda. You know, but as Emily said too, we don't spend an awful lot of time on those kinds of things, it's not, and I do think the meetings run pretty well. A lot of that is because this is a very collegial board, and seem to be in agreement on those things, so, you know, it's, but like I said, it's entirely up to the board. You can vote to try it for a month or two to see how you like it, how it works. You can vote not to do, or you can not do anything, and we continue the way we are. You know, the other thing with the consent agenda is something that the board wants to do. I do put a lot of information about kind of what's happened, but also what you're seeing in the packets in my director report. We can pull some of that kind of preparation stuff out so that you have a clearer idea of what's gonna be on the agenda. If that's something that the board would want to see in conjunction with doing a consent agenda for a month or two. So.
So do we vote on it, or do
I'd
we
like
have the
to-
motion?
I mean, no, I want to make sure that everyone is, you know, expressing how they're feeling too, so, or strong opinions either way, so. No.
Are we gonna vote on this?
If we wanted to do a
If you wanted
consent
to do
agenda,
it,
we would have to.
vote on it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I would say if there doesn't seem to be, yeah. But yes, if you want to do it, you have to vote. That's kind of the first thing that's
Just
required
wanted
to
to make
use
sure
the
that-
consent agenda, yeah.
Because you kept saying you could try it.
Well, you can, but you would just have to, you would have to say, you know, make a motion to use the consent agenda for next month's
Okay,
meeting, and then
that's
approve
what
it,
I-
and then we can
okay.
try it, and
Okay.
then, you know, and then if people say, okay, well, let's try it, I mean, in general, you would say, yes, we want to, or if it was broader, if the board felt strongly that they wanted to do it for more than 1 month, then you would just say that, you know, we will use a consent agenda going forward.
Okay.
Kind of thing, but if you want to try it for a month or two, whatever you want to do, but in order to do it at all, you do have to vote as a board.
And does somebody have to make that motion, or are we still in discussion? Just, if we're gonna be efficient, let's be efficient.
Personally, I don't see too much of a drawback. I'm interested in trying it out. Maybe it's just because you are on the board, so haven't spent as much time doing it the traditional way. But if it doesn't create any clerical or legal or oversight issues, and you're right, we do have very fast meetings. I watched the Niles meetings and I think the last one was 4 hours.
Oh my gosh, stop.
Yeah, I didn't watch all of it. I saw that it was 4 hours and I went to something else. But, you know, it doesn't mean every time.
I'm not sure consent agenda would help that situation.
That's like an elephant.
I mean, I should maybe mention names, but, yeah, so I'd be interested in trying it and we could do the trial basis.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think there's a downside to giving it a shot.
yeah, I would
See how it
to try it.
Again, you're not losing the ability to pull anything off.
Yeah, exactly, that's why it's not.
It does require that we do our homework.
And like I said,
So
if
we
if
know-
the board, if the board does
Which we're,
want
right, which we're
to do
supposed to do
this,
anyways, but, you know, so we know what we're all consenting to.
Right.
I can create a separate budget document, or I keep saying budget, a separate document included in your packets that will explain exactly what's on each item, so that you, while I do still expect the board to read their packets and stuff, it'll be kind of an easy reference to the agenda, if that's what people want to do as well.
Just in the vein of what Mohammed just said, apparently I'm not getting everything digitally, because this is the second meeting that I come that I didn't get everything, so I'd rather just get everything the way everybody else gets it.
Okay.
I didn't get the consent agenda example, I didn't.
Oh, I think that would just.
No,
That
that
was
was passed
today.
out.
That was
That's
today.
not-
we
That
didn't
was
get
the
that.
consent
No,
agenda?
no, the copy
Like
of the
this?
consent agenda was in the packet.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it was
the
the
minutes.
minutes.
Oh, it's minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I didn't
I
know
didn't
that
get the
we had
minutes.
a.
No, nobody did.
Yours might have been included, because everyone in the paper copy got it right after the agenda, but I created your packet. I can double check, and that's very
It's okay, I'm just saying
but
if it's easier and more, like everybody gets the same thing at the same time, I'd
It
rather
was,
be on
it
that
was
phone
easier
thing.
to send everyone the
I didn't
electronic
think I was gonna be
file.
saying this, Carlotta, I did not.
I can double check, but when I created your packet, I put it in order of the agenda, so your consent agenda sheet might be in the middle of it.
Well,
But,
maybe.
yeah, so, and when we created the paper packets, we just put it behind the first agenda, so that could be why, yeah, 'cause I'm pretty sure, I made sure, because I know you had specifically shown an interest,
Yeah.
so, but yours is probably in the middle of your packet.
All right, well then let's do it this way. I'll make a motion to, for the use of a consent agenda for the month of March 2023.
Second.
So we'll start it that way, and we can look at it as a temporary kind of thing, we can.
Can we add to the motion to do it for more than 1 month?
Let's
Let's
try
try
it
it.
1 month and see how it goes.
I don't think 1 month is enough data for us to make a real decision. I just
But we could always extend it in March.
sort of vote on a consent agenda. Like that seems, again, it's about
Consent to
efficiency.
the consent agenda.
So we're gonna consent to the consent again. I would just think at least 2 months would get us there between finance meetings or policy meetings. Because again, we're about to have a discussion about a policy meeting that I believe is gonna be somewhat extensive and
We can try it for 2 months, so, so we'll just amend that, motion, March 2023 and April 2023.
Just in case March is a really easy month, and
Yeah,
then we're like,
exactly,
oh, the consent
that's right.
agenda is great, and then
Yeah.
April comes and we're like, wow, this is
Yeah.
terrible.
yeah.
Okay. Hussein?
Yes.
Jost?
Yes.
Masager?
Yes.
Pelletier, yes. Kuzo? Yes. Flores?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay. New business, I'll make a motion to approve, Cam Leffler's vacation request.
Second.
So we will not have a snowstorm during that time, but, and so, please try to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I have to go, and my husband, we always say this, I have to go be the tidal wave.
You gotta do that.
I don't have to do it too often anymore, but.
Jost?
Yes.
Masager? Yes. Pelletier, yes. Kuzo?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Hussein?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I'll make a motion to approve the final payment to All American Exterior Solutions for roof work. I do not have the amount in front of me. Do we need the amount?
Yeah, but I'll lift it or,
It's on the front. It's on
do
the-
you wanna read that?
In the amount, thank you, in the amount of,
30.
$30,729.51.
Hold on for a second.
Second, Dennis. I'll second it.
Oh, thank you.
Do this now? Whatever has to be repaired?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
or is it wait till
No, there'll be a
spring or
now.
something?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's, yeah, the things that he has to repair aren't
Just 'cause
really.
it's I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, no, it's not, they're not necessarily weather related.
The wrong thing. Okay. Any questions on that for the roof work?
Just out of curiosity, what was the change order for the 575?
I believe that was changing the, there's the gutter, there's some strainers that are at the bottom of the gutters so that a bunch of leaves don't get in there. And Ed had asked for something that was a little bit more substantial than what they had provided us with originally, so that's fine.
Okay, we'll vote on the roof payment. Mason,
Yes.
Pelletier, yes. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hussein,
Yes,
Jost.
Yes.
it's after the personal property replacement tax section.
And so I think it's on the other.
I got that.
Oh.
This- I got that. Move it to the next one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so next, I will make a motion to approve the library closing on Friday, April 7th, 2023.
I'll second it.
Thank you. So in Pam's director reports, she did mention this under facilities, so the carpets are being cleaned here in the Baxter Auditorium in the main and lower levels of the building. And due to village noise ordinances, they're not able to do it in the evening. So it just makes the whole logistics of it a little bit
Yeah.
easier.
Well, yeah.
Well, you know,
It-
yes,
yes.
yes, and no, yes, and no.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Closing the library.
It is Good Friday, but that's not why we're
Just
closing.
Just
Pelletier,
kidding,
yes. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hussein,
Yes.
Jost.
Yes.
Mason, Jack.
Yes.
We actually did pick that day because it was far enough out that we didn't have to change any programs, which is, because we plan our programs so far in advance, but then also thinking that it would be a day that hopefully wouldn't be as impacted because it was Good Friday and that kind of thing, so, yeah. And we're getting quotes from 4 different carpet cleaners at this point, so we've gotten 2.
4?
Yeah,
Really?
so we've gotten 2 so far and we're waiting for 2 more, so we'll make a decision.
Okay, next for the closed session minutes review, is it best to do 2 separate motions?
Together.
You can do them together.
Okay. So everyone should have this sheet. I'm gonna make the motion, we can chat about it if we need. So I'll make a motion to release the closed session meeting minutes from November 10th, 2022 and December 8th, 2022.
I'll second
So Pam explained.
So this is,
Yeah.
I know you just did this in October, that was kind of catching up. And I wanted to get us back on track of reviewing these every 6 months. So I know I'm 1 month late on this, but this is just, as we are required to, per the Open Meetings Act, the board has to review closed session minutes to, the idea is to always be as open with them as possible, so to release them when possible. So we're just, instead of them being closed, I'm recommending that you release them and open them to the public, and we'll post them on the website. There are no recordings that have to be destroyed at this point. There are no responsive recordings. So we're just asking to open up the minutes for those 2 closed session meetings.
Okay, we'll vote on that. Puzo,
Yes.
Flores,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hussein,
Yes. Yes.
Joes?
Yes.
Lisa J?
Yes.
Volunteer, yes.
Okay. Policy committee, do you guys wanna take it away?
Yeah, we had 4 policies. I think we were on the same page on 3 of them, and then one of them, which was the public, what was it? The
Display.
Exhibits and display, we kind of wanted to bring it to the board to discuss. Do we just discuss all of them and then, or should I bring it
I
up?
would.
Start with the exhibits?
No, I would start with the other ones, because there's, unless someone really wants to make a change to those are ones that don't
Okay.
require, I don't think, any discussion, so, yeah.
The first one is public comment policy. We didn't have any changes. I didn't know if anyone else had any changes on these. Looks like we're good. And then public posting policy, we had no changes on that one as well. I don't know if you guys saw any changes. And then the third one is the social networking policy. I know Pam had some
A lot of
change, yes.
Comments,
Yes.
not comments.
Had some changes on there, but I don't think we had any changes. So you guys see. And then the last one we did have, we had quite a discussion on the exhibits and display policy, and we wanted to bring this to the full board.
I would recommend that you, the board vote to approve
Okay.
those 3. That would just be my recommendation, and then,
So you can motion it.
yeah.
I would like to make a motion to approve the following new policy, or the following policies: public comment, public posting, and social networking.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Flores,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Hussein,
Yes.
Jost,
Yes.
Lisa J? Yes. Volunteer, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Yeah, we should start. So the exhibits and display policy, we were, I think Pam's recommendation was to just rescind this because, was to rescind this policy. We just were discussing, the library has pretty much no space to put up, if an artist was to come in, they would have, we don't really have a lot of space for, especially in the next room. Is it these? And we also don't really have the equipment to put up if somebody wanted to come in and do an art display. So it would be, we'd have to have maintenance come in and put up the art display and everything. And, but then we were discussing that, where in the community would you be able to put up an art display? We didn't want to take it away from the artist, but I know you guys are more passionate about it because he's an artist. I know artistic talent, so.
That's one of the reasons, I guess you could say, I was a little bit, not even so much
No,
passionate about it. It was
but
more to
you
your
made good
point,
points.
is there space? And if there's
Yeah.
just no space, then
Yeah.
that's an obvious reason to get rid of the policy. The one thing that Mohammed and I did discuss after the meeting, and it was actually a long meeting because we were debating space without even walking around and looking at the space. If you walk around the first floor, there's absolutely no space. You're not gonna do display in the youth services area. So really, that only leaves this room
And the cafe.
as an option. So, and then, that being said, no artist has looked at us and said, can I please display at the library, right? So there's a lot of things that the program doesn't necessarily even really exist, right? Like you would say it doesn't.
So with COVID,
Let's
so-
say pre-COVID.
yeah, pre-COVID, there had been dwindling, I don't want to say dwindling interest. I mean, we weren't approached that often to display art, but under previous directors for a long time, there were staff people that were tasked with finding artists to display, which was time-consuming and not always a great use of librarian time, that kind of thing. So that had always been difficult. As I mentioned, I did write up some notes about this as well. As you can see in here, these metal bars are the display system that we have. They date back to at least 1987. They're not in great repair. It's difficult to hang things from them. You know, the policy had always said that, you know, artists had to hang their own artwork, that kind of thing. That never was the case. It required a lot of staff time both to find artists to hang the artwork. There was always some concern about, did we allow artists to put pricing on their artwork? Are we supposed to allow people to sell? Because we've been pretty strict with not allowing like authors to sell their books, so we do that now, but that kind of thing. So there was always some kind of gray areas to the policy as well. And it had dwindled off even before COVID. And then certainly, you know, we were closed for a while. But so we haven't really gotten much interest from artists. What we typically get is, as I mentioned in my write-up, the YS display case downstairs, which has a lovely hijab display in it right
When
now.
I first read that, that's what I thought was
it's-
going, and I was like, oh.
No, that will stay there. And it's really cute. The girls did a great job with it. And that is booked out for 2 years. And that's kids and families just approaching the YS desk. So they've never used this policy to do that. The other thing that we've done, and we try to accommodate, is like if the schools approach us and, you know, can they hang artwork? And, you know, we've done it in the stairwell sometimes. When we did the violin thing, that was in the little cafe area thing. And we always try to accommodate those types of things to support the local schools and the local, you know, families in that way. So we haven't really ever used, and again, those things are not done through the exhibits and display policy. That was always through direct contact with me or another librarian or, you know, another manager, that kind of thing. So, and in no way would we want to prohibit that from happening. And like I said, or to use this space for other types of displays, which is more programmatic than actually displaying artwork from the community. So that's just a little bit of background on
There's
that.
never been any partnership with like Niles West or, you know, to like graduating seniors, their artwork to display at the public library?
I'm not to my knowledge.
But that can still happen if the
We could still
school
do that. I mean, if the
came, but-
school approached us, but again, those kinds of things aren't typically happening through this policy. It's more that someone's approaching me or they're approaching a librarian that they have
That's why
contact
the
with.
policy
that kind of
doesn't
thing.
really cover anything that's happened over the last few years. And I will say, I don't necessarily agree that this system is terrible, but it's not conducive with, to your point, me as an artist coming in and being like, so what am I gonna do? And I know what I could do, I'm just saying.
Right,
It's not
and I will
conducive,
say that the
and this is
pieces
a
like
theater.
this is fine, but the pieces, the metal pieces that are hanging there.
That's what you hang it on.
Yeah, you hang them over there and they're stored and have been for, since we've gotten them under the stage. And so over time, they've gotten bent, that kind of thing. So they're not in great shape.
But this isn't a gallery either.
It's not a
Exactly.
gallery,
And
I'm
it's
worried
not
about
conducive
safety,
for
like
people
how
to-
are people gonna look at the pictures
As they're walking
coming
downstairs.
down?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have to leave the door open for people to come
Or
in.
you'd
You want
have
to
to
have
put
somebody here
sign
to like
out
make
or
sure
something.
that.
Well, pre-COVID, whenever we
Exhibit
did have an
downstairs.
art display in here, I would always come and
Yeah.
look at them. And so, you know, one, I think the white walls are sad, and I would love more color.
Spruce up
We
the
know, we
walls.
can certainly do something
know,
with the walls, that's not a
Two,
problem.
like if it was a priority, I don't think replacing the system to make something more feasible is actually a bad idea. If that was something that we utilized a lot. Having said that, if this is the policy committee's and your best recommendation, that's fine. I mean, I would love that we had like traveling artists that you know constantly displayed here. I think that would be amazing. But if that's just not the case anymore, then I mean, definitely happy
It
to support
hasn't
what you
been,
guys.
and like I said, the
are
things that we
recommending.
do get asked about are not, again, through the exhibit and display policy, and we treat those more on a case-by-case basis, and they're more programmatic and that kind of thing.
So if, to Emily's point, because I mean, if you've taken advantage of that, I just never saw it when, in the years that we've been coming here, but if that's the thing, if there was a Van Gogh, I'm being a little facetious, but if there was a famous artist that wanted to show photographs or whatever, we could accommodate it as a program, correct?
Yes.
That's great.
I mean, that's always, rescinding the policy is so that we just don't have a policy hanging out there that really isn't serving any purpose. It doesn't ever mean that someone couldn't approach us, anyone, a staff person, anyone with the board or whatever, and say, I have this great note Van Gogh,
Yeah.
whatever,
Or
right?
a collection,
And
a
we would-
private collection, or
Yeah,
whatever.
and we can always make those decisions on a case-by-case basis. That does not remove that. So, you know, the managers and I talked about this a lot as well, because we've had the same discussion, you know, at our management team meetings. And that was one of the things, it's like, if we did have something like that, do we have a policy that says, oh, we'll treat it on a case-by-case basis? And I kind of went back and forth a little bit and thought, at that point, I think it makes more sense to just rescind the policy and we treat them on a case-by-case basis. We don't have a weird policy that said, just in case, you know, that sort of thing. And that, you know, and then if at some point the board decides it really wants to make something like that a priority, then, you know, that would have to be budgeted for, because these systems are not cheap, and, you know, so we would have to know that that was a priority.
And I can look into that for them.
And then figure that out. So that would be, I mean, it's not like we can't ever have another exhibits and display policy sort of thing, but, so that was kind of where the managers and I came down.
But as of
with that.
now, where our library this is not.
I mean,
conducive to
it would be,
ours.
and I share everyone's, you know, desire to have something like that. It would be great if we had spaces for all the things we need, but, you know, as we were just talking, I've got managers that don't have their own office. So, I mean, and, you know, as we've talked a lot about a lot is, you know, this is a building that the community has said we have, and so we have to make it work. And so there, you know, there's a balancing act. It's like, we can do this, but that means maybe something else that we do just peripherally or not all the time, but it's a nice thing to have. You know, some of those decisions have to be made.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna speak for Frank Tennant.
okay.
Legally, if we did have somebody display something, we've got this one paragraph here, that is something we have to take into consideration if you allow someone to accept, yeah, that. I just wanted to make, yeah, okay, yeah.
Is it the,
Liability.
paying at your own risk? Yeah, liability.
Right, you know.
And that's standard, too.
Right, I mean, I don't wanna get rid of a form like this, or something for
I
them.
don't think that form exists digitally, right? That-
It is, there's a link to it on
Oh,
the,
there
from the
is?
website, yeah. I mean, we can get rid of this.
No,
I
well,
mean, I don't understand what you're saying.
what I'm saying is, if someone does, you know,
Don't get rid of the form altogether.
we want them to sign, saying, you know, that we, if any.
Oh, I see, like, if someone, and we're
We
doing
had a
it on
fire
a
here.
case-by-case basis, that, yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay,
So we
that's
would
what
have other release forms.
Correct,
Releasing us from
okay,
liability,
that's-
yes,
Yep.
yeah. And we can do it off of this form or whatever, but,
Right.
you know, if the board does vote in fact to rescind this, then we'll
Okay.
make sure we create a form for those instances that happen.
Just wanted to make sure I understand, so if we rescind this policy, it's not equivalent to creating a policy that says we will not
That's, yeah.
ever
Correct.
host exhibition or, community
Right.
artwork or filming.
Yeah.
So it's not a policy that says
We're not
we
doing it.
won't do this in the future, it's we're not going to actively seek it out and make it like a core part of our program.
Correct.
If someone comes to us, we will
Yep.
give it.
Okay, so the option is still there.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
So it's actually,
That's,
Where we
that,
at?
that's exactly what,
Yeah, where you-
what I was concerned, I just didn't want that door to be completely
I
closed.
agree.
Especially because there wasn't really any other space in the community where somebody could do that.
I agree.
So if someone wanted it now, they could do like the Baxter
You know,
Market
it's a-
Cafe then? Or is that-
Yeah, I mean, that's where we did, when we did the violin thing to help the
It's not
orchestra or
there.
whatever, but, you know, I mean, we will have to talk about that, because, you know, there isn't anything set up for that area to be a display, and I have some thoughts about things that we might put there. So we came across a bunch of professionally done photographs of the library, like from the 1960s on, which has been really fun trying to figure out where all of the photos were from. So we thought about kind of framing them in some nicer frames and doing kind of the library through the years in that section. Because there isn't a display system installed there, anytime, like when we did have the violin and we were doing that, we actually, you know, put holes in the wall and then repatched them and that kind of thing. So we would have to make some decisions about that, so.
and I could tell you as an artist, I would never aim in that space, because it's got traffic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
kids, people, food.
And right now,
it's
there's
not a
no
great-
food, and, you know, we don't have the vending machine, and we're saying no food in the library, but that will probably change again, as, you know, in the next few
Yeah.
months, as we put things in the vending machine again. And we kind of thought it would be nice to have that space, so, you know, to Mark's point, there may be artists that don't
Yeah.
feel comfortable with that. And like, again, that had always been kind of that balancing act. When Art was in here, we had to keep the door open, so everything in here has to stay locked for public to be in here. This isn't a place, we don't have security cameras, so we can't keep an eye on things, so there was always that level of, you know, how much security was there, and, you know, and or just want to sell their work or whatever, and they could be worth, you know, hundreds of dollars, that sort of thing, so. And so kind of rescinding the policy came about because this was on the policy review schedule, and I always ask the managers to look at the policies, and we discuss them at our manager meetings. And so Melissa had come to me because it was one of the adult services staff that had always been, you know, his responsibility, or a librarian in that department, to kind of oversee this and then actively seek them out. So that was kind of started the discussion amongst the managers about, you know, was this something that we were still actively doing, and if not, did we need to still have the policy?
Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time and discussion about that policy committee. So, you want to take the lead? You
Yeah,
wanna-
sure. I'll make a motion to approve the rescinding of the exhibits and display policy.
I'll second.
Gonzalez?
Oh, yes.
Same?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Lisager?
Yes.
Alexander, yes. Puzo?
Yes.
Flores?
Yes.
All right. So next, review the, always mess up this word.
Decennial.
Decennial, thank you. Committees on Local Government Efficiency Act.
Poor Suzanne.
Can you repeat that?
I've been talking about this for a couple days now.
Doesn't roll off the tongue.
So I distributed to the board some information about what this act is, and you actually saw the entire act. So as you can see, there's not a ton of guidance about what they want to have done. The first, I did actually reach out to our local state rep that goes down to Springfield, Mike Kelly, and said, you know, we're starting to look at forming this committee, and I was hoping that they could give me some more guidance about the intent. I understand the intent of what they were trying to do, and there's some background with this act changing a little bit. And then more specifically, what sort of report that they're looking for from this group. So he responded right away back to me. I was really surprised, kind of, and said he would look into this more and get back to me. So he has not yet gotten back to me, but as of right now, the information you have is the only information that is available about these committees. So this originally came out of, the act had actually been changed. It used to actually mention in the act consolidation. So as you may be aware, Illinois has more taxing units of government than any other state in the country, by far. And so the initial intent of this was to have units of local government, except for municipalities and counties, look at what they do, examine all their rules, procedures, those kinds of things, and to look and to prepare a report how to be more efficient and consolidation. So I think in committee, the consolidation part of this was taken off, and so this is what we're left with. And so the board does need to form a committee by before June 10th. So it had to be within 1 year of passage of this, and it passed June 10th, 2022. I did not bring this to the board's attention prior to this because a number of libraries were also waiting for some additional guidance, and it just never came.
Yeah.
So this was kind of what, like I said, this is the only guidance that we've seen so far. Both what we got from the Illinois Municipal League and then Klein Jenkins Thorpe, which is the attorneys that Rails use, they're big library attorneys and stuff. So The board has to form most of the, that you are most of the committee. I, as the executive director, have to sit on the committee, and then you have to appoint at least 2 other residents. Suzanne has indicated as a resident of Morton Grove, and there is some recommendation that you have additional administrative staff on the committee. She has agreed, if the board is so, it would be amenable to that, that she would sit on the committee as well. And so then there would have to be at a minimum of 1 additional person. As if you read over everything, these committee meetings could be held at the same time, like the same evening as the board members, but you would, so for example, if you did it, you would have to close this meeting and open that one, and then you would have to have all your committee members there. So the committee has to be formed before June 10th, and then within 18 months of the committee forming, which I would recommend having that be at the first committee meeting, because it gives us a little bit more time, you would have to hold 3 meetings and then prepare a report, which I anticipate would be me preparing that report that we then send to the county.
Okay,
Talking about our rules.
totally not confusing.
It's,
Totally efficient.
I have some,
Totally
I have
efficient.
some thoughts on this that I'm not going to share on camera. So I have some ideas about, how to proceed with agenda items for the committee, that kind of thing. But it is incumbent upon the board to form the committee, and you as the board president have to kind of spearhead that a little bit.
Okay.
So, and I'm here to help in whatever way I can. The other thing is that they also specifically amended the act to say that this is an unfunded.
Yeah, everything, you will not be paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's.
That's what makes it so efficient.
I know.
So if, because if you read over everything, they do make some recommendations about, if you have to get an outside consultant or work with your local universities or community colleges, but that would all have to be paid out of library funds. So there is no additional state funding to.
So we're not asking Frank to help out on this committee.
I mean, right. You could ask him to sit on the committee, but he would be serving in his capacity as a resident.
As a volunteer
Right.
resident.
And it would be in his capacity as he wouldn't be billing us for it.
Right, that's right, that's my feet.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, like I said, that needs to be done before June 10th.
Okay.
And then we would have to, I would say, schedule the first meeting sometime before that.
Yeah.
And then that would be the.
I'm just not clear, what efficiencies are they expecting us to?
Well,
I
I
read
mean,
through this stuff and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm more confused.
It's kind of counterintuitive.
I guess I don't want to say
Board meeting
anything.
June 8th, so
Yeah,
maybe you
I mean,
can
it's,
form it at that meeting.
so the other thing is too, is,
Bye, Mark.
these are the rules, these are the statutes that govern Illinois libraries. Okay, so basically what you'll be looking at are what statutes govern you, what administrative rules based on the statutes, what bylaws you have. We'll look at things like what intergovernmental agreements do we have with other organizations? Where do we, and we already do a lot of this. I mean, the directors have been talking about this for a couple of months, and one of the things, as with oftentimes with some of these laws, right? As we look at like 1 day rest and 7 laws and stuff like different things like that. I mean, these clearly aren't necessarily geared towards libraries necessarily, right? I could see where people are saying, oh, I didn't know there's, a mosquito abatement district, those types of things. But, we already do a lot of things really efficiently with our dollars, and we're very, very careful with our dollars. And one of the directors of one of the area libraries said, this is a great way for us to show how efficient we're already being with everything. But I would say utilizing my staff time to do this is not a great use of taxpayer money, which is ultimately the goal. But I understand that, so.
It's not very efficient.
It's not very, right, if that's ultimately the goal, this isn't really meeting that.
So we're reviewing all of our own.
Yes, yes. And you're looking at,
It's not
and
biased
so
at all.
one of the things that they want you to do is look at ways and areas that you can improve efficiencies. And so, but when they removed the consolidation part out of that, I think that kind of removed the meat of what the act was probably originally intended to do.
So what if we can't come up with ways to improve?
I mean, off the top of my head, there are certainly ways that, if you're thinking, as just a taxpayer in the state of Illinois, as opposed to a board member at the Morton Grove Public Library, for example, one could argue, does it make sense from a taxpayer point of view that Skokie, Morton Grove, and Niles libraries are within 3 miles of each other? Why don't we consolidate that? Does it make sense that the library and the park district are separate? Is there ways that we can consolidate some of those things or create efficiencies? I'm just saying this.
I know,
But you see what I'm
I get
saying?
what you're saying.
I mean, the other thing too is that the way that Illinois funds their libraries is not the way that other states do it, for example. I mean, a lot of states do it in the same way that we treat community colleges here. Like, everyone in Illinois is in a community college district. And so in some other states, everyone is in some kind of library district. That is not the case in Illinois. There's pretty large areas of Illinois that are outside, they're unserved altogether. So, an argument could be made that we treat libraries more that way. I'm just saying that those are, I would assume, the kinds of things that they are looking at and saying, but again, without knowing the actual intent of this. Though, again, it was, consolidation. I think it was a good way for those legislators to show their constituents that, yes, they're, if people are complaining about their taxes, this is, they can say, oh, we've co-sponsored this bill, the statute now that asks people to take a look at what they're doing and where are the ways that we can create efficiencies and thus lower your tax burden. Yeah, I would argue that, yeah. I have some thoughts about how those 3 meetings could be divided and things that I would recommend that the group look at that meet the criteria of what they've kind of outlined to do. So, and I can, help with that and stuff like that. But yeah, so, my other concern and kind of frustration with this, governments are good at doing this in Illinois. This is kind of good at doing this, kind of this unfunded mandate sort of thing. But it's supposed to be once every 10 years, we'll produce this report and then we send it to the county. And there's no direct, at least as of right now, we don't know where in the county we're supposed to send it to.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Just the county.
Like, who's gonna review
Well,
all
and
these
that was the
different-
other thing is that people are, there's literally probably hundreds of different taxing bodies in Cook County, if you count all the libraries, the park districts, all those different things, and so they're all gonna send them to the county. And then my question is, who is going to review them, and then what is the purpose of that behind that?
Some consultant.
So, some
6
consultant.
figures, mark my word.
So, the board can't wait too long, because by law, they have to at least establish the committee before June 10th. But I would anticipate at some point, I could be wrong, but I would think that as people start to sit on these committees and think about preparing this report, that all of a sudden people are gonna be saying, well, A, who are we sending to it at the county? When is the county gonna do it? Are they gonna throw it in some file drawer or, someone's hard drive and that's gonna be gone for another 10 years? So, I don't see it as being.
Do we get like a grade for this report?
Not as
Like
far
if
as I
we
know.
hand in a term paper, you're gonna get a grade for it.
I don't know what penalties there are if the board does not do this, but,
Well, I think we should do it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, but I
Whatever
mean,
we put into
you're
it.
saying you
No.
don't know who,
No.
I'd like
but
officially do it.
There has been
Be
no,
done.
what I have given you is everything that there is about this right now. So,
I know, it's already almost a year. I kept going like, where's the other
I
stuff?
felt like, I kind of just said the same thing, though. I read,
Yeah.
like, wait, I just read that in this one.
well, because
Yeah.
they're taking it all from the statute, which is the only guidance that they
Okay, so
have.
they're trying.
So, as I said, I did reach out to our local state rep,
Okay.
Thank you for that corrective stuff.
for a couple of, I mean, I did because it would be nice to get a little bit more guidance, and, you know, while I'm pretty sure I know the intent and that kind of thing, it would be nice to have a little bit more concrete information about the sort of reports that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So that, you know, I don't want to waste the board's time or the committee's time in preparing something, or my own time,
Right.
in preparing something that isn't gonna be what they want or whatever. So the other reason I thought it would be good to reach out is to say, I mean, legislators can be very busy, and particularly some of the state legislators, I mean, they still keep their full-time jobs and those kinds of things, so, you know, they're going down to Springfield. So just to kind of bring awareness to, and so maybe if more people do that, we might get more explanation or whatever, but, yeah, it's, yeah.
All right.
But I can't even read.
So, yeah,
So small.
so that, like I said, Suzanne has said that she would be willing to serve on that if that's something that the board
I'm sorry,
is amenable to.
who was
but-
it?
Suzanne,
Oh, Suzanne.
as a Morton Grove resident, and then also as additional administrative staff. But again, that's completely up to the board, but I think that would be.
Yeah.
So yes, so, you know, however you want to approach that, let me know. Obviously, you don't need to necessarily decide something tonight, but
Yeah.
I can work with you on or whatever. I mean, if you know of someone or a couple people that might be willing to do this. I mean, Frank might be an option, but,
I
you know.
was just joking when I said.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't,
But, yeah.
but, you know, I'm sure there may be other people, or you may be aware of other people
Yeah,
that would be
okay.
willing to do that. But, like I said, as long as the first meeting is called before, June 10th, that would officially establish the committee. Again, it can be at the same night as a regular board meeting. That may be easiest because the entire board has to be part of the
Our board
committee as
meeting
well.
is June 8th. that month.
That month is June 8th, but you could form the committee at any time in between now and then. It doesn't have to be.
How many
a
people
technical
have to
date.
be on this committee?
At
They
the
don't-
full board
the
and
full
at
board.
least 2 other residents.
So Suzanne
other
would
residents.
would satisfy one of those.
Yeah.
The administrative and a resident.
And then I would have to, as the director of the organization.
So you don't get out of that. You don't get out. You were thinking like, oh.
No, I just want to know how many people.
Yeah, so at a minimum, it would have to be the full board, me, and then 2 residents. So it would be a committee of 10 at a minimum, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, we will continue this one. Yeah, I'm not gonna, you know,
So if, and I can talk to you, Emily, or whatever, I mean, if you want us to put anything out on our website or in the e-newsletter about this, let me know that and I can
Okay.
draft something and we can do that. Or if you want to reach out to people individually,
Okay,
just let me know.
okay.
So.
I'm surprised that it doesn't require that we open up those 2 spots to, an open application.
It
Oh,
does
then
not.
we're gonna interview people.
As long as we,
It's not
as long as we
there. I'm
satisfy that there's
surprised
2
that
residents of
I
the,
was just
Right,
saying.
no, and it says they should be selected by the chief of the governing body and approved by the board, so.
It's, there's very little guidance about this, and I think the intent was good, as these things so often are, but I think in practice, it will be interesting.
Well, because it's like, let's say we were a wasteful board,
Right.
but then we picked 2 people that we
Right,
get to pick.
who are gonna be.
Who are gonna agree with us.
So the other
It's-
part
it's
of
not
it
much
is
of a
that
check.
the assumption is
Well,
that
that's true.
for some of these meetings, there may
Fault
be
lines.
community interest. And so, I don't know if you saw it, but it did say in one part in there that after every one of these meetings, you have to survey the audience and see if they have any other questions or
Yeah.
concerns at each of these meetings, so.
The audience,
For, yeah,
oh, just us.
well,
Not-
whoever is here, I mean, I think the assumption
so
is
whenever
that.
we hold these, so whenever we hold these 3 meetings, they have to be, they have to be advertised.
That's gonna be.
So that, these meetings have to be advertised, so the public can come and,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
I
so
mean,
our
so just like with
arguments-
anything else,
Yeah.
but.
Like Mayor
you know.
Di Maria does, come to the meetings and give your input and all that, that's what we're gonna be doing.
Yes, I mean, I would, well, you don't have to, at least as far as I understand what I've read, and you guys are reading the same thing as I am. But having a little bit, since I'm paying a lot of attention to Open Meetings Act all the time, I don't believe that we have to have a component of public comment at the meeting. That is not outlined in here. What is outlined is that you have to give people, that would be the kind of public, is that you have to survey who's ever here. So that would kind of be that public comment after
Right.
we meet. So at the end, at the conclusion of the meetings is what they say. And so the way that I would read that is that once the meeting is over, then
That's how I
people
read
can
it too.
talk. So it wouldn't even be part of the agenda in the way that our public comments are, at least the way that I'm reading the
That's how I read it
statute.
It
too.
also
is
said
that-
you could send them an email asking for
Right,
their input.
and then
so it
ask
seems
them.
like it's not to be a back and forth.
I mean, it could be just a very, you know, kind of casual, kind of, you know, again, that's how that's how I read it too, at the conclusion of each meeting,
Right, at the conclusion.
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be in the minutes.
That's
it doesn't have to-
assuming there's gonna be people.
Correct.
Right, I mean, and, I mean, yes. You can, yes.
Oh,
Suzanne has
God.
listened to me talk about this several times over the past few days, so. Every time like a new manager walks in, and I was grumbling today, and Jeff's like, what are you talking about, blah, 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 and Suzanne's like, oh no, so she showed him all this, and Jeff's reading, and he's going, what? So,
I'm glad it's universal, I'm glad we all have. the
yeah,
same
it's, it will be fine.
Yeah.
It will be
It's fine,
fine.
it's fine.
It is unfortunate, I think, because, I mean, if the ultimate goal is to look at ways to not waste taxpayer money, this does not seem like the best
And
way
to
to
be
go about
efficient,
it.
right?
But,
And to, yeah.
you know, but, you know, maybe, but it's fine, it'll be fine. So,
When is she?
We're gonna keep saying
The
that.
cemetery bill.
It's at the top of
Morrison,
the.
Carroll.
I can't
Lake
read
Forest.
small print.
Morrison.
And
Morrison from Lake
Sarah
Forest
Morrison.
and Representative Carroll from Northbrook.
Of all places, Lake Forest and Northbrook.
So,
Yeah.
Telling others to be.
Because they want to tell their
With the-
constituents why their property taxes are so.
Okay.
so anyway, as I said,
People look into where they can.
And where's she
Like
from?
budget.
Morrison.
Lake
Lake
Forest.
Forest.
Right up here, is Lake Forest.
Oh, I'm looking here. I'm looking at this thing.
No.
Which is
Oh,
the
no, no.
official.
Fact
But you can't read.
This one may worse
I
than
guess I
me.
gotta read the big print.
So anyway, so,
Alright.
like I said, as long as the first committee meeting is held for, June tenth, and then from that point, you'll have to meet at least 2 other times, and then the report has to be done within 18 months of formation of the committee, so, and that will be, like, as I said, I would recommend that be the first, the formation is the first meeting.
Okay, okay. Well, to be continued, folks. Maybe we'll revisit this.
And then after that, then you meet again in the next 10 years?
Yeah.
That won't be me. I told Jeff when he was talking about, it, I said, when you're director, wherever you're director, whatever it may be, I said, then you can think about this in 10 years.
Oh my
Just not
gosh.
working in libraries and all that. I mean, that's, you know, and that's, again, it's kind of, it was just frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm not,
It is.
I understand the intent, but the actual enactment, I don't think is gonna go quite as smoothly and.
That was not thought out.
And it's just frustrating to go, to spend the time to do the work and create the report and then have it, as I said, be sent to some amorphous person,
Right.
committee, or department or whatever in the county, and then what are they gonna do with it?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Yeah. All right. We'll definitely be revisiting that. Okay, so let's move on to communications. We did get a nice email chain, between Helga and,
School district.
and school districts, so, yeah, it was,
So we had hundreds, literally hundreds of steel bookends from, you know, previous, both the main floor renovation and then the YS renovation, to purchase the steel bookends, and is rate, like, to get them new, like from Demco or somewhere, they range from usually about $4 a bookend to up to about $10. And so it was nice to be able to give them to another unit of local government, you know, a school that could really use them, so rather than just having them go and steal recycling or whatever.
and it's, I mean, yeah, that's, I'm sure it saved them quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Helga was able to be resourceful and find
Yes.
boxes to send those, you
Yeah.
know. So that's really nice. And then the other one was the, are we doing the brick in the?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I have included that in your packets because I think it would be a nice thing to have the library buy a brick, not a bench, for $3,000, but I thought it would be a nice gesture to do a brick, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I got one of these for my husband, his birthday's coming
Oh.
up in March, so that's my surprise.
I like that.
I got my husband a brick at Wrigley Field, and I used the excuse that I was pregnant, because I really was, and I got like the proof, like, well, make sure everything's spelled okay, I'm like, yeah, great, okay. And then it came, and I was like, spell last name? I spelled our last name wrong. It is forever engraved for millions of people to see, and it's like, we have a replica in our basement, I don't know if you've seen it, but, I mean, and Jason's like, this is my favorite thing ever. That's amazing.
And you said I did it on purpose.
I'm like, oh my god, I felt like such an idiot. I was like, so proud of myself, like such a great gift, and I was like, oh.
If you really feel bad, you could try to get a chair.
Yeah.
Those seats are out there.
Oh my god, just have to, I'll just show it to someone else. Did I spell this right? He'll get it for me. But anyway. Okay, I think it's public comments, non agenda items. It is still just us, so we will adjourn. It is 8:15.